Our next speaker, Mr. Tooraj Abozarkhani, Fard. He is a member of the Free Trade Unions of Iran. He is the editor-in-chief of the newspaper related to the trade unions in Iran. And he's also a member of an organization, a committee that is in charge of the freedom of the trade unions and in Iran. And he is the chief editor of the monthly publication related to social and financial companies. He was a political prisoner of the 80s, and I'm very happy to ask him to speak to us about the response of the government to trade unionists in Iran. Greetings to all of you. If you allow me, I would like to talk about basically the practical aspect or the response of the government to these activism, and I would like to talk about it in a practical way because I have very little time. I've decided to take off some part of my speech, and if you allow me, I will just go directly to my speech. You know, from the very beginning, the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran have limited the activism of the trade unionists in Iran, and the labor law that was passed on after the revolution limited to all the laws related to the activism of the labor unionists to be decided by the Islamic Council. Today, after 35 years of the establishment of the Islamic Republic of Iran, after the oppression that was received by the different organizations of the government, many of the assemblies and many of the trade unions have been limited in their activities, and they were faced with severe sanctions and severe persecution from the government. The government of Iran, they have established a few articles that are included in the constitution of Iran, but unfortunately they don't even follow their own constitution and their own laws. And for example, we can just talk about the different groups and different groups that are related to trade union and the right to assembly, and the different articles that are related to the rights of the workers to have representatives. I would like to share with you a few articles that are related to the labor rights. I would like to talk about the article about work and labor, which is article number 19. There is article 100 that is related to the wage, the legal or the equal wage for men and women. Article 105 that is related to the elimination of any kind of discrimination in labor, and there is an article related to the right to assembly, and the article 138 related to the minimum age for employment, and the last article 182 that has to do with child labor. And so these are the articles that have to do with the Labor Act in general in Iran and the labor laws in Iran. Now, what we see is that in different sections of the government have actually launched campaigns to stop the activity of different trade unions that were very active in the country. And what they've tried is to pass on laws to legalize these oppressive acts and these ways of limiting the activities of these trade unionists. Another example that is very popular when it comes to the government and their acts is they actually allocate a certain amount of years that is given when the trade union wants to register itself. And so in the past, usually they did not have any expiry date, but now it is given 2 years for the trade union to basically work, and to have its activities. What it means that in these 2 years they will be observed by the government, and if they have anything that is the government is not happy with, then when they go to renew their permission, they will not be given a permission to continue with their activities. And so the index for the trade unions that are established in Iran has actually been cut down, and we have now organizations and institutions that work for the government that their work is basically to limit the activity of the trade unions. We've seen many times that we have people in different companies whose work is to control the representative of the trade unions, and what they do is that they act as a political arm or a help for the government in these different companies. This, together with a group of detentions that took place in the past few years, and what they do is to create a machine, or a machine that's activity is to stop and to limit the activities. And what we have seen is that the leaders of the different trade unions who have been firm in their activity, what the government does is that they do their best to stop, to threaten these groups, to threaten their leaders, and to work in a very active way to limit their work. Another way of the government's way of limiting these activities is to weaken the assembly or the gathering of small groups. What we have in Iran is that the labor minister in Iran, he says that we have to believe in the supreme leader, and our belief in the supreme leader and his station is a condition for the registration of a trade union. And you can see the limitations that are put on the trade unions. We see up to the date the effect of these kind of thinking in our work. After 35 years from the establishment of the revolution in Iran, we can see that the atmosphere of the trade unions in Iran, we can say that only 1% of the workers in Iran that feel that their work is being basically supported by a trade union. This is something that the media itself has shared. And this is the result of 35 years of oppression against these groups, and the continuation of this process within the current government's policies obviously does not help the situation to improve. In Iran, if we want to have a trade union, the Minister of Labor and the minister in charge of the work or labor in the country, he has to basically agree with the creation of a trade union. And so you can imagine how much independence is lost in this process. And as the press is limited in Iran and is censored, what we have seen from the government, from all the different governments that we had in Iran, all the trade unions related, for example, to journalists in Iran, they have received threats and they have had lawsuits against them. It is, for the past few years, the trade union for journalists were banned, their members were detained, and they were obliged to leave the country and to live in exile. And unfortunately, many of them their activities were banned and stopped. The government only accepts or only allows the gatherings to exist in order to go to conferences and to events in Geneva and be able to show that nothing is wrong and nothing is against freedom in Iran. And unfortunately, it's only a play. The beginning of May 2014, which is the Labor's Day, Mr. Ibrahim Madadi, the head of the trade union of the Tehran bus company in Iran, he has started an activity for Mr. Namati and Saidi, and he started to offer sweets, pastry. This was not a protest, this wasn't a demonstration. He just offered pastries and basically to celebrate the Labour's Day. Immediately, he was detained by the police, and in front of all his colleagues and people, he was beaten up by the police, and he was detained, arrested, and when his colleagues wanted to go and support Mr. Madadi, 20 other workers were arrested as a result of going and helping or showing support. Mrs. Mohammadi and other activists, 40,000 of them, they went to the Labour Ministry to show their protest against what has happened. They were also arrested. On 30th of April, Mr. Azimizadeh, they were on the International Labour Day, were arrested. When these people are arrested, they are tortured, not only physically but also psychologically. The interrogators, they choose the most terrible ways to put pressure on these activists and on their families. And what they want to do is to stop these activists from continuing with their activism, and to stop people from wanting to gather and to create trade unions. They treat these labor activists in a very terrible way. They do not allow them to visit their families. And many of these prisoners, if they do not accept to cooperate with the government, either, or for example, they show their protest against the conditions of the prison, or they write letters of protest to different officials or higher officials, they are sanctioned, they are taken to solitary confinement, they are not allowed to meet their families, and they are put under severe pressure, and in some cases they are put on exile and they are sent from one prison to another prison in order to put them under more pressure. When they send them to another prison, obviously their family members are not allowed to go easily and see their loved ones in prison, and in this way they put the family under pressure. In other situations, before the period of their prison sentence is finished, these activists are severely beaten before they are set free. Some of them were actually paralyzed, some of them who have suffered from terrible psychological illnesses, and many of them actually who are in severe need to be hospitalized or to be looked at by a doctor. They are forbidden to ask and get medical help. You know, at the beginning of the government or the establishment of the government of Mr. Rouhani, many people had hopes that things will change. For example, I would like to share with you some of the numbers that were published in the media in our country, and they were also shown or reflected in international media also. For example, we had the demonstrations by the company, by a mineral company in Yazd, and a group of workers who have participated in these demonstrations, but 21 of them were arrested. And in Shiraz, they also had a demonstration, and some group of these demonstrators who are activists were also detained. In Mubarakeh, in Isfahan, the province of Isfahan, for Mr. Lutfi, Mr. Saberi were detained, Mr. Azimzadeh and Mr. Shahabi and Mr. Momeni, They were also arrested. Unfortunately, I can't share with you all the names here. I don't have a lot of time, and so allow me to end my speech here, and I'm grateful for you to have listened to me. I'm also grateful to you, Abozarkhani Fard,